hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess and we're here to talk about the best books that I read in 2024. I found it fitting to wear Man of the Year, just kidding. But one of the other best things of 2024 was seeing Hosea in concert. So I thought that was perfect for this video. But yes, I have narrowed it down to a top 10. Kind of. Okay, this is what I mean by kind of. I definitely have 10. One slot may be cheating, but this is my channel, so I don't care. And then I have like an honorable mention. I think that's what the girlies have been calling it. So this is my top 10. My top 10 best of the year. I already talked about my worst and the ones that I have DNF'd. If you want to go watch those videos, if you haven't, I'll link them. And then also my ins and outs in general for my bookish life for 2025. Yes, those are my end of year videos that I've made thus far. So let's get it poppin', talking about the best books I read this year. So they're not in order. There's not a number one because they're all, well, I was gonna say they're all at this, I didn't feel like numbering them. So I'll just go towards the ones that were like, and then the ones that were like, you know, anyway. So all of these, just because they're on my best of the year, does not mean they're 5-star favorite of all time, best book ever written, but they were just ones that I rated highly, at least 4 stars, obviously, and really enjoyed, still think about. That's one of my main things, is I'm still thinking about it, even though I read some of these in January or February. So one of the books on here, and this is mostly fiction. There are 3 non-fiction on here though. So, starting earlier in the year, I don't remember when I read this. Only for the week. One of the best romances I've read this year is by Natasha Bishop. And although there were characters in this book that I wanted to fight, I still think it was so good. And one of the things that made it excellent for me was that man was a good man, Savannah. Okay, Rome sticks in my head. It was a good man. And he was just so like, still like, oh yeah, that's my girl, I'm gonna do whatever for you, but still like, I don't want to say the things he did for her in case you read it and spoil it, but just he was listening to her, and then he would put things into action because he listened to the things that she talked about, things that she dreamed about, things that she wanted. And that's a good man, Savannah. Also, another thing that makes this a highly rated book on my list is the relationships between like the friends. So the setup for this story is our main character, I forgot her name, and then Rome. They both are ending up on this island because they're in a wedding. So the female main character, again, I'm terrible for not remembering her name. It's her sister who's getting married. And so at first it's like the bridal and the groom party, and then like family and friends come in for the actual wedding. But our sister's getting married to her ex-boyfriend. Scandalous. And so there's mess there, there's tension there. And then when the mom comes, oh my God, her mother, or her sister and her mother, I wanted to fight them. My Lord, the mess that ensued. But the relationships, the banter, the interaction between like the bridesmaids and the groomsmen like was so natural. It felt realistic, like I was just sitting here listening to a group of friends talk, and the way they like poked at each other, I love that so much. And then obviously their relationship, the growing of that, because they're basically here for what, maybe 2 weeks max. It says only for a week. I feel like they were there longer. Only for the week. I can't remember how many days. I read this in like January or February. I just know that that sticks with me, how attentive and kind and thoughtful he was, and also the relationships between the friends. And I feel like someone said that maybe the author was going to write another one in this series so we could see another one of the friends maybe get together, and I'm down for that because they were hilarious. So I love that one. And then another one I read earlier was Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. And if you've been on any sprint, mostly Patreon sprint with me and Robin, then you heard about Bloom. What can I say about Bloom? Bloom is a sapphic horror novel, okay? we've got this gal and we got this other gal. This one gal's working at the farmer's market selling her wares, and this other gal comes to the farmer's market. And, you know, they feel a spark, a connection. But things quickly go left. There may be murder. There is violence. Much violence, control, manipulation, gaslighting. Just know this is not a romance, okay? This is not a romance. It may be sapphic. There's a sapphic relationship, but it's not a romance. And it's very short. There's literally, I cannot say much about it because everything, all of the things that stuck with me will give away. But just know that it is in my brain. There are scenes that I see in my mind often that I think of where I'm like, girl, just know some heifers was not thinking right. Because I was like, had that happened in front of me, I would have been gone. But that is, it sticks here. So if you want a sapphic, murderous time, I would recommend it. That's all I got for Bloom. Another one that's like, okay, I really enjoyed it when I read it. I rated it 5 stars when I finished. Is it really 5 stars? I don't know. Everyone's 5 stars is different, right? 5 stars to me does not mean best thing ever written, like structurally, highest quality. It means I read that book and I had a good ass time. I couldn't think of anything else. And that's what happened with Glow of the Everflame, which is the second one by Penn Cole. Spark of the Everflame is the first one, I think. And then, okay, usually I am terrible at continuing in series, both books and TV shows. I read the first one, was really into it, ends on a cliffhanger, and I was like, you know what? I'm going into the next one because they were on Kindle Unlimited. I don't know if they still are. Going to the next one, picks up right there. I'm like, bam, in it. I'm locked in. I'm stressed, reading. Well, I wasn't turning the page like this. I was tapping because it was on my Kindle, and I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I just kept reading. I was blazing through that beach, okay? Get to the end, cliffhanger. I was like, oh. Now this was around June, I think. Third one was already out. However, the fourth one was not out yet, but it was listed on Kindle Unlimited. It was coming out, whatever date in July. And I was like, okay, well, I might wait a week or two so I could read the third one because I had already heard the third one ended on a cliffhanger. I was like, but then perfect. The fourth one comes out. Wrong! Penn Cole said, you thought, bitch. Because as I read the first two, I made a video saying that I feel like this is gonna get picked up by a publisher because it's like a really good fantasy romance. Bam, it did. Penn Cole at the time said, oh, this is not gonna affect the fourth book. Wrong. It is now December 30th. Okay, that was back in June or July, because then she announced that it was picked up. And then it got pulled off of Kindle Unlimited because the fourth book was up there. It had a date for the release. Got taken down. And it's now December 30th, 2024. And still no word. She posts that, you know, it'll be out when it's finished. And I'm like, but how did you have it posted on Kindle Unlimited with a release date if it wasn't finished? Like, I understand, girl, get your bag. Whatever. I don't know her. I don't know what she's going through or what the publisher's requiring. It's just like, it feels odd. Just be honest. Say, I got this deal with the publishers and now I can't release this one. That's what it feels like. So anyway, I fucking loved Glow of the Everflame, okay? Luther, who knew that I would find a man named Luther attractive, but Luther, Big Daddy Luther, whew. Did y'all just see the lighting just drastically changed? Because this one is like a slower burn because they really aren't getting together. Are they even together in the second book? Kind of. But it is, they're both, it's like, this world where there's like the people who descend from the gods and then the regular people. And so old girl is a regular person and he's one of the people that descended from the gods and they're supposed to stay like separately. But her mom was a healer for the people descended from the gods, but then her mama goes missing, and so she's like, hold up, I gotta find my mama, and so I'm gonna take her place, and I'm gonna infiltrate the people descended from the gods as their healer, and I'm gonna find out what's going on. And of course she meets Luther, and I was eating it up. Even if she did piss me off and she was acting foolish, I was living for the tension, and and so many things were happening, oh my God, and then it ends on like, cause she's still in the second one trying to figure out what happened to her mama. So there's like this mystery of what's happening there, and then like what's happening between them, and then like maybe everything isn't as it seems, and like, oh, do we reveal to the citizens about. But at this point, that was in June, because I was so ready to go in, read the third one, read the fourth one, be like, this is amazing. At this point, I don't know if I'm going to continue, because I'm not going to read the third one and be left on a cliffhanger and then be left on a, will this fourth book ever come out? So anyway, I'm just going to appreciate the time that I have with those first two books. I'm going to hold them here in my heart. I'm going to think of Luther. But I might have to let you go, my love. I might have to let you go. Another excellent book. Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. Shocker, I know, because I did not love the Farseer trilogy, which is, I feel like, an unpopular opinion. Most people really love the Farseer trilogy with Fitz. I did not have a good time with that sad boy. But Ship of Magic, which I was hoping that I would love, because people said, well, this one is different, there's multiple perspectives, it's not Fitz, so maybe you'll like it. And it's not. It's still in the realm of the Elderlings, but we're in a different part of the world, and the ships are sentient, so basically they're passed down through generations, and after a certain amount of generations have passed, they quicken, which means they like come into their full sentience. And so you have characters that are the ships. We have Vivacia, and we have, our main story is around this family and their ship, and what happens when the patriarch passes away. Drama ensues. This is a fantasy family drama, okay? That's how I need to sell it to you, because had it been sold to me that way up front, I would have read it a lot sooner. Mess, child. Will you like anyone in the story? Probably not. If you do, well, if you like more than one person, I have questions, because there's only one person that I could tolerate. But like, it's not where you're reading it, you're like, oh, this is so insufferable, I can't read it. It's like you're reading because you're like, I hate you so much, and I have to keep reading this because I hope something bad happens to you, and you, and you, and you. And some things do to certain people, not enough. So I'm hoping that when I continue in the new year with Mad Ship, more bad things happen to the people that deserve it, okay? But this is a fantasy family drama, and I'm here for it. I'm living. Yeah, there's a lot of people I want to get their ass beat. I do. I wish I could do it myself. And so I can only hope that over the next two books they get what's coming to them, because there's so many raggedy ass people in this story. But it's good reading. Okay, it's entertaining. It's enthralling. Could it have been a little shorter? Yes, but still great. Cannot wait to read the next one. Okay, this is where I'm cheating. You know, I said I had an honorable mention. I think I already mentioned it. Oh well, anyway, the one where I'm cheating is because I'm just putting Abby Jimenez, because I read 3 of her books this year and they were all 5 stars and I love them all, and I don't know how to pick my favorite. So I read Part of Your World, Yours Truly, Just for the Summer. And I'm trying to think. And I think if I had to pick, Yours Truly might be my favorite, simply because the anxiety representation was so fucking spot on. I was like, that's me. That's me. Even though it was the man who was very anxious, I still was like, that's me. But I still love Part of Your World so much, and and Just for the Summer, like, I love them. Now, I haven't read her older ones. I've heard some people say they're not as good, but these, obsessed. And they're longer than I traditionally like for a romance, but I eat it up. Like they just fly by. I love the characters. They're all in the same world, so you do get to see like a character from part of your world and yours truly. And then in Just for the Summer is very, you don't have to read them all or read them in order, but it's still like, you know, nice little, oh hey, I recognize your name. Especially in Just for the Summer when I finally realized who somebody was and I was like, oh my gosh. All her characters just feel very relatable and real to me, and their struggles. I think Yours Truly might be my favorite. The anxiety rep is so good, and to me, they have the perfect balance of like side plots and the romance. Like I've said this before, that I'm not a big fan of Emily Henry because I feel like her romance is often a side plot, and the other things going on feel like they have more attention in the story. They feel more general fiction. But to me, Abby Jimenez does a great job at making like, this is a romance, but these are also the things the characters are dealing with. So I just love them all. So I had to put them all here. And if you think that's cheating, I don't care because it's my channel. One of the nonfiction books was The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. So this is actually right here. I didn't know how to feel. Someone sent me this as a gift. And so the Anthropocene is the current geologic age that we live in. And so this is like a collection of, I don't want to say short stories, but like entries. And they're from various topics. This one is Wintry Mix, Monopoly, Indianapolis, the Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Contest. And so you start off some of them being like, and he talks about his, like, they're all things that he's experienced in his life, but it's not just about that topic alone. He like seamlessly transitions into like other things. Like every little thing relates to something that like you could have gone through, and like something that we all just experience as being a human on earth. And at the end he rates it out of 5. And so some of these were really funny, some of them were really sad, some of them just made me just think about the world at large. And just him writing this from, again, big things like something he was talking about, like a sunset from space or something, and to something as small or something seems mundane as the academic decathlon, but how he like tied it in a different life experiences, people he's met, things that he's gone through, things that we experience as humans. It felt grand and profound while also feeling like something I could do myself. Not like write this, but like I could pay attention to just smaller things in life and have a greater appreciation. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, at first I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work for me. And normally with nonfiction, I like to have a physical while listening to the audio. I listen to the audio, he narrates it, I highly recommend. And because I'm usually note-taking. And I didn't really do this with that. And at first I was like, there's nothing, like no quote that I'm like, ooh, I need to tab. But like, it also was really enjoyable because I could just like put it on while I was walking Nigel or like doing something. And you can like finish a section and you're just like, huh, I don't know. It just made me reflect. I'm a very pessimistic person. Very like, why are we here? Life sucks. That's just me. And I also loved his conversations of his struggles with anxiety and depression, and as somebody who struggles with both of those as well, it just felt like, are me and John Green very similar? No. Okay, he is just very different. He's a white dude who lives in Indianapolis, who's an author. He has a good relationship with his brother. Like, we are very different people, but there are still so many moments that I felt very, like, I could easily relate to him. And I think that was the beauty of this. It's like, we are all so different. We come from these different walks of life. We experience these different things, but at like boil it down and we're like just these little human beings on this floating rock doing the best we can. And so I just feel like this would work for everybody. Like, it may at first just be like, why am I listening to this? Or like, what's the point of him telling me about this hot dog eating contest? But it's the way he, like, I don't know. I can't explain it. You just need to listen to it. It's excellent. And I finished it and I just felt happy, inspired. Like, I felt like I also came away with just like random facts and more knowledge and just like an appreciation for life in general, which is hard for me to have. That sounds really morbid, but it is. This is something, I would listen to this again. I really love this. I don't think I've explained it well, but I think everyone, it's worth listening to or reading with your eyeballs, whichever you want to do. Highly recommend. Now, on the flip side, one that did not make me feel inspired was Poverty by America. This one is by Matthew Desmond. I also read the book Evicted by that author. It is one of my, it's hard to say favorite, but one of my favorite nonfiction books that I've read. It made, I still can think of the emotion that I had when reading Evicted. And now I will say that this didn't give me as much of that emotion because I felt like I knew more like about poverty in America in general, although this just goes in deeper and gives a lot of things that I was like, okay, let me mark that. So like examples, specific numbers, data. Evicted is like a concept like I knew about, but I didn't know how bad it was. So I just think I knew less about that one, so I had more of a reaction learning about just how fucked the system is with that. But this is still enraging within the first chapter, and it just reaffirmed so many things that I knew or said but maybe didn't have the data to back it up, or you know, there's just so much information out there, and this like is a nice concise, like this says urgent and accessible. I think that's really important, a very accessible way to just break down poverty. And he says by America because it's by design. So I feel like if you have someone in your life that is somewhat receptive, you know, maybe skeptical but receptive about learning more about the shadiness of America, and maybe they think the system is broken, but you're like, no, the system is working exactly as intended, this would be a great book to give to them. Another one that I listened to while also following along, but there's just so much in here that I did learn. Like I knew about poverty, but I didn't know about deep poverty, and just like the different statistics on how many, what people are living through, and just excellent quotes in here. And my battery is dying, so I have to go find a new battery, so hold on. Look at me, I had a fully charged battery. Okay, so I did label my tabs, so I just want to go through and see if I can find some good ones for you. I have quotes, statistics, definitions, example of fuckery. Let's go to an example of fuckery. Oh yeah, this is one of a great one that I had heard about, but I didn't know about that. But this is talking about the assistance, the government aid that is given to states. So instead of it being the federal government's control, it's given to individual states, and they get to decide what to do with it, how much they give out, which you are like, yay. But I just need people to understand that states' rights, we're not going to get into it right now, but I really hate it. A fair amount of government aid earmarked for the poor never reaches them. To understand why, consider welfare. When welfare was administered through the Aid to Families with Dependent Children program, almost all of its funds were used to provide single-parent families with cash assistance. But when President Bill Clinton reformed welfare in 1996, replacing the old model with temporary assistance for needy families, he transformed the program into a block grant that gives states considerable leeway in deciding how to distribute the money. As a result, states have come up with rather creative ways to spend the TANF dollars. So, nationwide, for every dollar budgeted for TANF in 2020, poor families directly received just 22 cents. Only Kentucky and the District of Columbia spent over half of their TANF funds on basic cash assistance. So, of the $31.6 billion in welfare funding, just $7.1 billion was realized as dollars in hand relief to the poor. In 2020, states had in their possession almost $6 billion in unspent welfare funds. So they're getting the money and they don't even use it. Anyway, okay, so sorry. I was gonna say multiple, but that was just, I can make a whole video about this book. Maybe I should. I don't know. It's gonna make me mad. But again, it always feels weird to say I enjoy this book or it's one of my favorite books when it's such enraging content, but I still think this is worth reading for everyone. I'm gonna move on. While I'm talking about nonfiction, I might as well get my last one in. Do Nothing. I have talked about this multiple times. How to Break Away from Overworking, Overdoing, and Underliving by Celeste Headley. This was so excellent. Another one, I don't know if you can tell, all of the tabs. This really talks about how our culture, of course, of overworking, and that one of my favorite things it went into was looking to the past and the predictions that they had for the future, the present that we're living in currently. The technology would develop so much that we wouldn't have to be working as much, that we would either be working very reduced hours, or some jobs would be more seasonal and people would just have more time to not be working. But that's the exact opposite, and it just talks about all of these things, but also gives realistic ways to try to reclaim some of your time. Like one of the things was like having a hobby, a time consuming hobby. And I'm like, heck, I have those. There's it's so frustrating. Again, this is like things you know, but this is giving you evidence and studies and like things to point to be like, okay, I already knew this thing, and here I can tell you why on this page it is how it is. And it is, books like this are like comforting because you're like, I knew it wasn't just in my head, but also frustrating because you're like, yes, it is true, and actually is worse than what I thought. But she goes through like from pre-industrial revolution to the industrial revolution and how that changed things, and losing like craftsmen and stuff like that, and then into more modern day, of course, the World War I and II, and then to Reagan and Thatcher, and like all of these things that at the time, as we just kept progressing, that we took away the things that really mattered to enjoying life. And it was just like, how do we infiltrate more work into everything that we do? Even talking about people who have jobs that maybe they leave the office. This is even before she's talking about remote work, but even leaving the office and then come home, and some people are still checking their emails on their phone or on their computer at home. Like they're just always you're always locked into work. One of the last things that she said in here was, do not let corporate values determine how you spend your days and what your priorities are. You are a big brain social animal who's currently constrained by unrealistic demands and expectations. Your vision has been narrowly focused for too long on your work and your marketability, but your intrinsic value as a human is more related to your position in your community than to your earning power as a laborer. Stop trying to prove something to others, reclaim your time, and reclaim your humanity. And I wrote, Auntie Maxine would agree. And I'm talking about disagree, not on too many things, a couple things. I was like, I don't know about that one, but I still think this was excellent, and highly recommend. American Rapture by CJ Lead. I read this earlier in the year as an ARC. Thank you, Alyssa, for recommending this one. I had not read The Mayfly by the author, but American Rapture, our main character is a girl in high school, very sheltered, Catholic, parents are very strict, and you know, so she's sheltered. She doesn't know much about relationships and all of these other things in the outside world. She's kept to a pretty strict schedule. They control what she reads, like they're watching over every aspect of her life, but there is basically like a zombie apocalypse happening, and that of course changes everything very quickly. And so it's a coming of age story, but during a zombie apocalypse, which I haven't read or watched, and I thought was really interesting. Because normally coming of age, like a teenager, is not going to resonate with me as an adult. But this was so interesting because, again, she's coming from her very sheltered life, and now she has to learn to basically survive and depend on other people and learn to trust other people. People she normally her parents would tell her are evil, like that is, you know, not something that's Christ-like, or that's not someone you should be associated with because of just, you know, certain things, outside things, very little information she knows about them. But she has to learn to trust these people, or like take the risk of trusting them in order to survive. And she's, you know, basically on the run with various people. And yeah, it's just like we're watching through her eyes, her questioning everything that she's been taught, like, oh, maybe this person is not inherently bad because they have tattoos or whatever. And it is, so that was a unique experience reading for me, is watching this person grow up very quickly and having to challenge all of her beliefs very quickly, because I mean, it really is life or death in these situations. And also the zombie part stressful, and the people she meets along the way. I just thought it was all really well done. I have beef with one thing at the end, but you know, that's besides the point. But yeah, this was just excellent. I haven't read a lot of zombie novels, so I can't speak to, you know, if it's better than most, but it was very interesting what was happening to them because of this virus. And there was hope, but there was also like just sadness, because humans will be humans in both a good and bad way. And so I think it's excellent, and I highly recommend. And it's still, there's things that I still think about since reading that one earlier in the year. And I would love to read it again, actually. But yeah, that was a very unique story for me, and I loved the premise and the execution, because there's a lot of premises I be liking these days and they're not executed well, and I thought this was really well done. Okay, a recent read, it's in the room or I would grab it, was Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang, 2 for 2. The author also wrote The Sword of Kaigen. If you are new here, it's one of my favorite books ever. And so if you've read The Sword of Kaigen, I still highly recommend that you read Blood Over Bright Haven. Know that they are very different. I would say the only difference of my thoughts about them is that I felt a more emotional attachment to characters in Sword of Kaigen. However, I still felt a lot of emotion in Blood Over Bright Haven. It was just different. But this one is essentially, we have I can't remember what her name is. I'm so bad. I don't think I've remembered anyone's name except maybe Rome. Anywho, the woman character in this story, in this world, they live in this society that has magic, but women normally, you know, stay in the home. Men are usually I forgot if they call them sorcerers, mages. So in the society, they have mages and they have high mages, and it's never women. Like in the history of their society, it is never women. And they have these like 2 religions, and you get little snippets of like their documents or whatever, their books, their Bibles, if you will, at the beginning of each chapter. But it is very, men are up here, women are too emotional to be in these positions of power, to deal with magic. They need to stay in their place. So Siona, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name, is our main character, and she is determined. She's like, no, I am going to be the first high mage. I'm going to defy all of these things. She has a mentor who actually like believes in her and supports her, and so we start the story seeing her become a high mage. She lives with her aunt and her cousin, both women who do more traditional womanly jobs, and they're like, girl, I don't know why you trying so hard to be living in that man's world, but we're gonna be here for you, we're gonna support you. She's very like in her books, you know, kind of ignoring everything that else is going on. And she's a very frustrating character, okay? She is so frustrating, but it's essential, okay? You are not going to like her, and that is important. Our other character, his name is Tommel, and he is of the class of people, the race of people in this world that are like the savages, the others, and essentially they live out on the outskirts, kind of the wilderness outside of this city, and the lucky few that make it in to this city are really struggling to survive. They're the underclass. They do all of the jobs that the other people of this society don't want to do. They're underpaid. They live in terrible conditions, you know, very much white people in America, the good ones, and then minorities, hello, the marginalized people, the bad ones. So it's mainly from her point of view, but we do get his. And the first chapter, my God, I was like, what is going on here? And so it starts off with a bang. And from the first chapter, I was hooked. I thought this was excellent. I thought it was a perfect length of a story. It's a standalone. The ending is so good. It is so good. And this story is really important. Because it just is a fantasy story, but it's mirroring a lot of what we're seeing in our present day society, especially here in America and a lot of countries, because it's about corruption and lies and racism, sexism, xenophobia, just the violence perpetuated against marginalized groups, people who are other than, because they're seen less than. And it's a story of someone uncovering those lies and having to deal with like everything they've believed in their life before, coming to terms with like the comfort they've been able to live in and the benefits that they have, well, the things they have benefited from, and like coming to terms with that. And it's really hard for her, and you're going to be really frustrated with her, because it makes sense that somebody who has grown up a white woman, for all intents and purposes, even if women are still less than men, hello America, learn unfavorable things about the society that you've grown up in, about people that you've looked up to, people who have been your mentors, things you thought were like hard and fast truths, and having to come to terms with that. And it is excellent. It is it is incredible. I think everyone should read it. If you don't, this is one of the few books where I'm like, if you don't like it, there's something wrong with you, and you're probably the problem. Incredible. So I often find that sometimes when someone tries to write a story that's very, you know, mirroring real life things, sometimes it can be too heavy-handed or on the nose, where it feels like, okay, you should have just wrote a nonfiction, but this is done so well as a fantastical story, especially with the magic. At first, the magic, I was so confused, but as it's explained, I'm like, oh my God. All the stars. All the stars. Oh my God. Please read it. And last but not least, is This Thing Between Us. This was one of the first books I read this year, and I still think of it probably weekly. It's by Gus Moreno. I don't understand why the rating is so low, but it's a horror novel. I would say it has a little of a sci-fi twist to it, and it is short, and it is fucked up, and it is so good. Essentially, the story starts, this guy has lost his wife, and so he's in this apartment that they lived in, and is it haunted? We don't know. He moves. Did the ghost follow him? We don't know. He also, I think, is Mexican American, and so there's also his grappling with like being Mexican American and like not knowing Spanish, and like his own trauma with that, while also dealing with the grief of losing his wife, and like replaying the events over and over. And then there's like this thing, is it a ghost that's plaguing him, following him? It is so unsettling. I finished it and I was like, what? And then I went to Reddit to read people's like interpretations, and I was like, what? And then we discussed it I discussed it with my patrons, and we were like, what? There were more questions, but not what, and like that didn't make sense. I'm so confused. That was stupid. And it was in the I have more questions. I want to reread this. I want to see, to pick up the things I missed the first time. This is a masterpiece to me. I think it is incredible. It is so fucking weird, horrific, sad, strange, unsettling. What is that? Makes you reconsider this thing in life. Spectacular. It's just like, it sits on your chest and it stays with you. And I need another story. Gus, please, I need another one. And it's like, Jessica, that's the best one. That's all you had to say about it. I can't tell you more. It's so short. I can't tell you more. I can't say more. It's just so good. You need to go read it. Holy shit, I've been talking for a really long time. That was my best. That was my best of 2024. And while I did read, I forgot how many books, I think 70 something this year. And it did feel like I had a lot of, these were good. My best books were fucking amazing. Like, I'm like hot, just like, cause I got worked up talking about them again. And that, my friends, is enough. Every book can't be the best book because then we wouldn't have best books. Obviously, it's like every day can't be sunshine because then you wouldn't. What is it? You gotta have the rain to appreciate sun. You know what the fuck I'm trying to say. But like, these books, truly incredible, mind-blowing, life-altering, okay, some of them. And I love these end of the year videos to watch from other people, obviously, because I enjoy them. I love getting recommendations, but I also love this as a reflection for myself, that even if I did have books that were terrible, I had books that were mid, I had some fucking amazing stories I read this year, and I am so grateful for that. Even if, you know, the new releases, except Blood Over Brighthaven, a lot of the new releases weren't hitting. There's still so many fucking incredible stories out there to be found. That makes me happy. So, have you read any of these? Were they your best of the year? They should be. Let me know. I'm sorry if I love something, I gotta yap about it. But yeah, let me know your thoughts about any of these books or any of your best of the year, so I can add some recommendations to my never-ending list of recommendations. But thank you so much. I think this will be posted before the new year. Well, depending on where you are in the world, but Happy New Year. Here's to 2025 being... here's to 2025. All right. Stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, and sunscreen. I'll see you in the new year. Bye.